Another podcast edition session of Imagination, The Awakening. And I am joined with my guest, Tammy Cho. She is just an outstanding person that has so many talents and so many gifts. And today we are going to be talking about alignment and just a real quick blurb on alignment. When we are in alignment, but technology is not, we have these challenges before things happen. And this is what happens in life. And these are the things that I think we're going to really get into today. And it's just so synergistic that the restream did not. It just said that your stream quit unexpectedly, and that's an alignment thing. It's how do we allow those little things to get us all messed up and jacked up, right? So I'm gonna let Tammy introduce herself. I'm Stanley Dietrich, your host. But Tammy, tell us a little bit about yourself, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Stanley. And exactly it, right? Coming back into alignment, technology will fail. And you know what? We're only starting 3 minutes behind, and so it's all good.
Yes.
So, hi, everyone. I'm Tammy Cho. I am CEO of Path to the Heart. I am a body whisperer and Chief Energy Officer, which it's a new title that I'm stepping into, but it's not new to me in the sense that I've always been doing it. And I essentially help high achieving entrepreneurs and leaders to really step into their authentic leadership and energy alignment so they can actually open to receive their next layer of success, next layer of connection with people, and to invite more ease and flow into their life. And so nice to meet you all. I'm so happy to be here, Stanley. And yeah, let's dive right in.
So tell me, Tammy, I'm really fascinated because you and I think the first time that we met, there was a connection, and
Mm.
there wasn't a lot of words that were communicated, but there was a couple sentences, and I thought this is somebody that I connect with energetically, but I don't know why. And there's just this synergistic experience when you are in alignment with people and you're doing the same thing. Maybe it looks totally different, but it is in the same path. And so um, the more that I learned about you, the more I was fascinated. And even talking to you again, I just became even more fascinated because it's such a, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it is such a soul level alignment is, and it surfaces. And the thing that I deal with is the external, the postural. What we'll get into that later. But tell me, what made you really want to? When did you notice that your first indication was this is something that gave you energy, drive, life, knowing your purpose?
Yeah, Stanley, that starts way back. So let me just choose a point to start. And yeah, honestly, like I used to be a registered nurse. I worked as a nurse and in the psycho spiritual field for 20 years. But there was a journey behind that, and excuse me, clear my throat. Is that like I essentially, was one of the numbers of people that experienced burnout, and I, was having heart palpitations and chest pain one day, and it literally was radiating up my jaw, down my arm, such classic symptoms, right? And I got wheeled off to emergency in front of everyone at work, Stanley. And that was, it woken me up to my path of beginning my alignment, so to speak, right? But honestly, that slowed me down. But it wasn't until my daughter was 6 months old. She was lying there on one of the play mats on the floor. And for the first time, she intentionally hit one of the hanging toys that were like hanging. And, most moms would just be ecstatic and so happy, right? And if it wasn't for this community nurse that was sitting like right next to me in my living room couch, like seeing how disconnected I was to that, I wouldn't have realized how disconnected I was to my own child,
Wow.
baby. And so, yeah, that really, and there's always layers of stories. And, it came from, me and my mom and how she left when I was 20 days old. And so, like, I was like, I had this background going on, and that really affected my relationships. that am I relating in the moment to my daughter, right? And so navigating all of that, going into the layers, obviously started the counseling. I started like investing in personal development, trying to master the mind to like figure this all out. And Stanley, we know that the answer's not in the mind.
Right.
And so I kept on journeying. I went into energy, a variety of energy healing modalities, intuition courses, and things like this. Became Reiki practitioner, doing the bioenergy healing, shamanism, and things like this. And I was exchanging healings 2 to 3 times a week with people. But I noticed that when I stopped doing that, I, excuse me, yeah, when I stopped exchanging the healings, I still felt all the underlying symptoms of, depression and anxiety and like, just feeling not happy. And so I valued truth and freedom. I continued searching and looking, and I've dived into 4 years of this spiritual and emotional healing journey. And I came into what's into psychosomatics, which is the study of the body, mind, heart, soul alignment. And what I realized is that if we just work on the mind, or we just work on the emotions, and we're not working on the energy, for example, or we're just focused on the body, which as a nurse, that's what I was all focused on, the body, right? It like true healing didn't happen for me. And so my alignment journey really came, guiding me into all these facets of our multidimensional self to really, yeah, look at alignment as a whole picture. And so, yeah, so that's what I really want to bring to the world is like start addressing all the parts of us, stop ignoring these pieces of us, and to bring us into wholeness. And so that's a big part of what I do with aligning the energy, because thoughts, emotions, our body, at the building blocks is all energy. And so, yeah, that's the big part of my path and why I do what I do. It really transformed me at a mental, emotional level, but also how much I can receive in my business. So yeah, this is what I'm really passionate about. I could keep on talking about it, but
I love it.
please, Stanley, jump on it.
I love it. I'm fascinated, and I know that our listeners are also fascinated because you're right that we spend so much time only focusing on the mind, and what we do is we're giving the mind the power of our body, and when we do that, we're symptomatic driven, and we're following a model that seems to be prevalent, but it's not producing the result. And I say, and I just repeat it, is that the thinking that got you into trouble, if you keep thinking that, it's not going to get you out of the trouble. And if you just focus on one aspect, then I think there's a disconnect, and there is a disalignment. It's like hitting a pothole. You have a perfectly good vehicle, but if you hit a pothole and you don't have that alignment addressed, it's going to affect every other area. And no matter how loud you turn the radio up, the alignment is still out. And I think we do a lot of that. We do a lot of turning the radio up in our body. We turn music on, or we go from one modality to another without bringing them all together, because we are a interconnected being, and you can't separate it. And you can't, you just cannot separate it. And so I think that's fascinating. So you said 20 years ago you've been involved in this. You must have started when you were 2 or 3.
I look young. I have
Yes.
my Asian genes behind me. But yeah, like it's been a long journey and of evolution really for myself. And you speak of like, we must definitely look at these other layers, but unfortunately, in the world we live in today, like so many people are living in our heads and out of our bodies. And I think like if you don't really know what that means, it has a lot to do with stuck in the head with the mental chatter, all the voices in our head that affect, our behaviors and all of this. And we're not connected to how we actually feel in our body. And Stanley, with your work and my work, right? We're really, the body is such a magical thing
It is.
because it highlights everything. And Stanley, I know you tap into help someone with their body alignment.
Yes.
And I do as well. And we do it in different ways, but it's like all coming to the same source in many ways.
Yes.
And I'm a face and body reader. That's the body whisperer piece that I speak to. is that everything that happens in our body speaks to emotional patterns, subconscious patterns in our body. Like our eyes represent our heart, and our nose represents our self identity and confidence. And how we stand in alignment affects our flow and where we are stuck emotionally and also energetically. And so, and Stanley, like I love to hear a little bit about like how you work with people and to see when people are out of alignment, like what symptoms are they experiencing?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's what it is. They're experiencing a symptom, and the model has always been primarily to chase a symptom. So if somebody's got a sore shoulder, the modality, the common modality is to, okay, what's wrong with the shoulder? Let's give it a cortisone shot, or
Mm,
let's put it in a sling, and let's focus on that part of the body. And rather than looking at the body as a unit, because the body is
mm,
so interconnected, it is absolutely interconnected. Your big toe is attached to your eyelid. There's muscles that are interconnected all the way through. So you don't have shoulder muscles. You have muscles that go from the rest of your body to your shoulder. And I'm using that as an example because I find people deal with chronic pain, and they've adopted it that it's part of life, it's part of aging.
mm.
And I want to challenge people, and the people that accept my challenge, they get phenomenal results. And it is challenge the narrative. What have you been told? And do you believe what you've been told? And why do you believe what you've been told? Is it just because someone told you that? Or is that because you've actually understood that? Now, you don't have to understand the entire musculoskeletal organ system. I don't believe that you have to, but you find somebody that understands how the body works together and how muscles are recruited, how the shoulder is connected. We used to sing that song in school. The neck bone's connected to the backbone's connected to the hip bone. Okay. And
Yeah.
so, but that is so true. And the fact of the matter is that muscles run the body.
Mm,
They operate, they position the bones. It is not the other way around. And when I share this with people, they're like, well, I've been told that I have arthritis in my knee. And I said, well, why do you have arthritis in your knee? Well, it's because I'm getting old.
mm.
And
Yeah. It's so, yeah,
yeah.
please go
And so
continue.
then my question is, if that's the case, when did you get the other leg? Do you have arthritis over there? No. Well, I say, well, did you get that at a different time than when you got that leg? And they're like, no, that's a kind of a dumb question. I go, is it a dumb question? Or is it a compensation that your body has been making because you've been out of alignment? And so now there's a dysfunction on one side and a compensation on the other side. And now you've just got a muscular skeletal misalignment. And how can you bring that back into alignment? And we're going to do things that engage everything from your toes all the way up to what your neck is doing, what your head is doing, even in passively.
Yeah, I truly believe that because I get my, I'm very lucky because I get foot massages from my husband most nights. And yeah, it's like when something is tweaked in my toe, I definitely feel it like up in my chest. And so and as a nurse, I know it's all connected. It's just really choosing what kind of thoughts we allow people to place within us. And Stanley, you probably heard like when patients are told they only have 6 months to live,
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
and they accept it, it's like it's whatever you choose to believe and accept.
Yeah.
That's what you're creating from. And so we really do need to challenge the narrative because our body is listening to what we're saying to ourselves and what we believe internally, right?
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
And that's it. And when you tell your body something, your body responds because you are in control. And when we let the mind get into the body and we start we start living up here rather than in the heart. Um, Tony Robbins says, if you get in your head, you're dead. You stay in your heart and you live. And that is so true, because how many people fabricate their chronic pain? They start focusing on, my shoulder's killing me. Yes, it is. And your brain says yes. And so it sends that signal that, hey, we got to make sure that she knows or he knows that the shoulder is killing them. And it's been killing me all day. Now we're putting those chemicals, that cortisol that we're increasing, we're producing, when we can actually produce different enzymes and different chemicals in our mind and say, you know what, this pain is here to serve me. And this is what I say, is that pain is the body's language. And if you mask it with a pill, then you are suppressing what your body's trying to tell you. It's like a child that cries in 3 different tones. I'm past that, but now I've got my granddaughters, and there's a cry that I want attention. There's a cry that I'm not getting my way. There's a cry that I'm hungry, and there's a cry that I'm hurting. And it's our bodies are crying out, but if we just suppress it by giving them a toy or giving them, something just to occupy their space, we're suppressing what they're really, the language that they're trying to communicate, when they don't have words to do it. And our body doesn't have words, so it shows up as a pain. And I say, I'm sorry that you have a headache, but I don't really care that much that it's a headache. Let's find out why you have a headache. What part of your body is creating that? And it always comes from someplace else than their head. Always.
Yeah, I entirely agree with you. And it's like learning these signals in a way that we are realizing it's not just at a physical level. It's like tapping into, wow, like what's going on for me in my life?
Right.
Because like these symptoms, yes, it could show up as pain. For some people, it could show up like having issues with expressing themselves. They're having like throat issues, or these things actually are happening as a self-sabotage symptoms. And many times when I work with a lot of high achievers, they're like, oh, well, I want to do this speech, and they notice they start to get sick and their throat is off, or something like that. It also speaks a part within us emotionally when we're fearful. And it's like over time, when we are not speaking up for ourselves, and then you start to develop thyroid issues, for example, right? And so it's all related in so many ways, Stanley. And I hope this will land for a lot of people to really connect these pieces and to start being more curious about what beliefs we have. Yeah, what beliefs we have and what is going on with our body, and to analyze it a little deeper, or to feel into it a little deeper.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. It's getting to that source. It's getting to that depth, and knowing that this has been a buildup over years and years of what's been taking place. And you have high achievers and I've worked with high achievers as well, and they've gone from one company to another, and they were comfortable. They were doing the same role when they transferred. It was a lateral transfer, and they brought their knowledge, but they brought it in front of a different group of people that they weren't really rehearsed with, and they begin to question themselves. And that questioning changes their alignment, because now they have that imposter syndrome, that fear of failure, that scarcity mindset, like I'm not performing, I'm not being. And now it starts to settle in their body, in their soul, in their mind. They're stressed, they're biting their fingernails again, all kinds of different things that they haven't done for years. And now it starts to show up in the physical aspect as well. And you can't separate them. This works together. The body is a unit, and it is so intrinsically connected that once we have that demystified, we get back in power again. And I think that's what's beautiful about what you do. the path to the heart. I love that. That is absolutely true, because it's our heart that we live in. And when our heart is broken, nobody has a physical broken heart, but that's what we imagine. And
Mhm.
it is that spiritual breaking, that I don't know. This is my thought on it. This is, when my heart is broken, it's there's a heaviness. That heaviness resides in the rest of our body, and suppressing it, it is getting back in alignment, and it's bringing all of the pieces of that puzzle of the body and bringing it back together to be used the way that it was designed.
Yeah. And thank you, Stanley. And this heart piece is very important. And the reason behind that, right, is that when we are out of our bodies and we're not actually feeling what's going on emotionally, because many people are thinking their feelings and not necessarily feeling their feelings. And there's a place that when we have this heaviness on our heart and we're not addressing it, and sometimes it's conscious and sometimes it's unconscious, right? It
Mhm.
actually affects our connection to, like, why am I here? What am I doing this for? What's my purpose? What's my passion? Like, all these pieces, and actually affects our alignment and how we walk. The way we position our feet and how we walk shows me, as a face and body reader, if we're on purpose with what our soul is calling for. And also, if you were actually on direction, are we going in the right direction on our purpose, right? And so these pieces, like, really, again, bring back to the body alignment. But also, when we just focus on the body but not look at these deeper pieces
Mhm.
in our heart, that is like brings us to our soul connection, what's really important to us, right? That's when, like, that's this disconnection happens. In fact, I will go ahead and even say that when we are not in alignment with our highest calling, so to speak, like, it manifests into illness in our body. It's all connected and related. And so it's really time to open our perspective to see our body as this beautiful, like, gem, sacred vehicle, wisdom. There's so much here. And it starts with listening to our symptoms, right? Listening
Yes.
to what's happening, connected with what's happening with our body, but also what's happening with how we're actually feeling on a daily basis. And also connected to what we're saying with ourselves, saying
Yeah.
to ourselves,
Yeah.
right? All these things, it's about being connected with yourself and knowing who you are.
Yeah. Exactly. And I love that you brought up the gait, because most people don't understand what their gait is, how they walk, and the way that they stand. So I'm a body language kind of watcher. Like, I've been fascinated since I was a kid. And the reason that I got into doing what I'm doing as a postural specialist is that I saw pain around me as I grew up. And
Mhm.
I remember with clarity the day when I was about 8 years old, I said, there has to be a better way. This
Wow.
pain cannot go on. And at 8 years old, I had no concept of science, of chemistry, of anything. And I'm not a chemist, but I understand now that there's a chemistry that's going on in the body. But when I saw people in pain, like, I learned how to give my mom massages when I was 8 years old. And um, she had she had fallen off a horse, a physical horse, and
Mhm.
it damaged her back. And then she was married to an abusive man that damaged her back more, and so they got divorced. But I learned to give massages. So when I was in sports, I was the guy that could do massages, and I could feel these knots. And the cheerleaders loved me, So I was just this little guy, right? And I learned how to give massages. Now I'm I'm feeling how the body is misaligned. I don't even know that what this path is that I'm on now back then. But I did
Mhm.
know this, that when people stand a certain way, they think that it's a normal, but it's not normal. It's actually common. And there's a
Mm.
major difference. And this is why I say, when people have things that are out of alignment, it is a common experience, but it is not a normal experience. Our normal is so supernatural that most people don't even know what our normal really could be. And
Yes.
so when I'm looking at people standing in the grocery store and they're standing with their feet like this and they're heavy on one hip, I'm going, they've got a hip disparity, because that's a telltale sign right now. Their feet are compensating. And I'm watching people walk, and I'm watching them how they will work out of one femur and then they will rotate on the other hip.
Hmm.
And you can tell that their gait is off. They're walking, they look like they're headed east and their body is going north. And it's so fascinating that in in kind of a way, because I'm fascinated by it, that they see that as a normal way to operate, but their body has just compensated to that dysfunction, and they're operating, but they're not. It's kind of like most people just survive. They don't really breathe, and they're doing north south breathing instead of east west breathing, and they're surviving. They're getting by, but they're not having that abundant life, especially physically. And my intention is always to help people have a vision of what they want to do that they haven't done, and how to get their body in alignment so that they can do the things that they always wanted to do but thought that they were too old to do. I'll share one quick story with you. I have one of my clients uh, had a difficult time walking from the house to the mailbox and had pain constantly. And after our working together, she's a regular walker of 36 miles a week. And she's in her mid 70s, a young lady. And it's just amazing when people realize the life that they can have by getting back into alignment.
Mm.
When her body got into alignment, then her mind started to get into a higher alignment. And you talk about the eyes being the heart and the nose being the confidence. I'd be curious to know what my nose tells you, because I got the German and Egyptian nose. So it is definitely profound out there. So I'd be curious to know what that's saying.
Yeah, yeah, we could definitely dive into that. Like, that it's your nose speaks to someone that's very much, you definitely lead with who you are, and you love a lot of information for one.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's like the ridge on your nose at the top just tells me a lot about your how you are gonna have that mental drive, focus with moving forward in your life. Usually I get people to send me pictures and I get to zoom in and see all the detailing and things like this, right? But those are just some pieces, but it's also looking at our nose and how it relates to the rest of our face, for example, right? But in the sense of this alignment, like our face talks a lot about our personality. And I highlight, the left side of the face for people versus the right, because the left side is our private world and the right side is what we show to the world. And I help people see where there are misalignments within themselves,
Wow.
because a lot of the symptoms that show up in our body are created because of this internal neglect, or disconnection of self at some level. And it manifests into all these different symptoms. And so many times when I get people to look at the truth, and the truth highlights through our body by, let's say there's more darkness in one area of your face, maybe around the eyes, or there's like one side of your nose is a lot smaller than the other side, right? Like these tell me core lessons you're meant to learn as a soul and to walk through. And so when we're not walking that, that's affecting our body alignment.
Yeah.
When we are, for example, like off with our feet and how our feet are pointing, it affects our hips or vice versa. And it's like affecting how we actually are taking action in our life and how we move forward. And so you will want to achieve a goal and say you want to do something, but part of you is always holding you back. And so it then shows up in our body and affects, it causes more pain. And if you're experiencing pain, it means that you haven't, learned the skill of how to listen yet.
Right.
And that's okay. And this is the purpose of me and Stanley getting together, is to open our eyes, our perspective, to really see yourself for who you are on so many different levels, right? And same thing with the physical misalignment, right? It also affects energy flow in our body. Like, yes, this neuro chemical cascade that happens when we think, but it's also energetically like the same power that, you know, all our body functions happen without us having to think about it, right? That same power that holds like the planets in the sky or the
Mhm.
flower to bloom, that's like this innate intelligence within us that
Exactly.
is always like communicating through this energy. And so, same thing, like when you're actually kinked in your hips, you're blocking the energy flow. And so, it's a perfect representation to see, okay, let's come to the radical truth of self. Like, what am I ignoring within myself? Yeah, it's yeah, coming back into alignment with pain, but there's a deeper calling. And when we don't address that, a lot of times things start to happen again. We go back into the old alignment, right?
Mhm.
People fall back into old patterning. And so
Mhm.
that's where we bring the intention of our thoughts in. But it's when we do it with the mind without all the other parts, that's when it doesn't feel in alignment. I hope that makes sense.
It does. It makes total sense, and I love the way that you put that because, it is what we're putting as one unit into our mind. Our body's responding to that just the same as whatever we're putting in our mouth. Our body's responding to that. So you can't eat a handful of arugula and then eat a box of Twinkies. It's not going to give you the results. It is that alignment of what is the nutrition that I'm bringing. And that nutrition is spiritual, emotional, mental, that heart set, and then the physical. What am I doing for my body? I can eat healthy, but if I eat healthy and I don't exercise at all, I don't have movement, then I'm limiting what my body's capable of, and it's not working as a unit. It is working independently, and that's what I'm hearing you say, that the independence is not the way to go. It's the interdependence of all of the elements of our body, and nobody teaches us this. How come nobody teaches this?
Yeah, and that's what I said when I was a nurse, and it's yeah, it's interdependence, but it's also like it's like intercongruence almost,
Yeah.
where anyways, it's different words of saying the same thing, but it's like for me, it's wholeness. At the end of the day, it's like, we ask these questions like maybe, midlife, or for me, it was a lot earlier in my life. It's like, why am I here? Like, what am I meant to do? Like, we create happiness in our life by feeling in alignment that we're doing something valuable, and it's like matching our skills. All these pieces, right? When we don't do that, that's what shows up in our body, right? And it's just like such a this is such a like a powerful conversation, and I hope it really opens our eyes, like so many viewers eyes on this, to really see ourselves for who we are, and that our internal world, right? Whatever we want the outside, we got to match our degree of alignment on the inside to really let it in. It really comes back, like the core issue that I see again and again, it's worthiness.
Right.
Comes back to our level of self-love and what we are willing to let in. And it's this place within like our heart, when we're not connected to our heart, is closed. And that's the way we manifest the excitement, we feel, how open we are to even receive the love in our life, the connections in our life, the money in our life. It's all correlated. And it's like when we come into back to our heart and like really step into this like authentic leadership where self-love is key, and to really pay attention to where are we sabotaging ourselves, because almost consistently as humans, we're going to naturally want to default
Yeah.
into our old body alignments, our old way of being, however we want to see it, right? And so really it's about learning, listening to the body, seeing what's happening, like asking the right questions. And yeah, we're not meant to do this alone. Like this is why Stanley and I do what we do. We're here to hold you. And I would say when I was on my path, I needed people to hold me. And I will speak to this, is that energetically, it's important to be with someone that has a higher energy resonance,
Mhm.
And that looks like someone that has the knowledge and skills, but depending where you are in your journey, it's someone that you just feel that like they have like an open energy. And yeah, so I mean that might be another topic in itself, but it's just that just be aware that our energy just goes all around our aura and our body, and we're sensing it, even though we don't know what it is and what does that energy stuff mean. And yeah, so I just wanted to speak to that because it's such important.
Yeah. Thank you, Joan. Joan says that I worked with Stan during postural alignment 3 years ago. Severe hip pain was eliminated and I could resume normal, active life. And
Mm,
but that was the beginning of where the magic happened. I then worked with him as a life coach. A story for
beautiful.
another time. She went on to say, um, a story for another day. So, thank you, Joan. And this is it. What you were saying, that we default, and it's not an end to the journey. It is a progression. There's no destination. We are reaching our destiny every day. It is not an end stop. It's not the pinnacle. The pinnacle becomes the new base camp to experience a life that is without limits. And I say wellness is not the absence of pain, it is the absence of limitation. And when we get with somebody like Tammy, and she has the skill to be able to look and see what you don't see, I'm just learning so much more. And our conversation is so much more in alignment than I could even imagine. And I've got a pretty good sized imagination. And I want to have that. I want to stay that. And I want to help other people gain their imagination as well, and look at what else is possible. This is not the end point. What else is possible? And that's what I'm hearing you say, that we pick up these patterns when we're growing, and the deprogramming of that may take some people into their midlife, and some people it may take beyond their midlife before they're willing to say, I need the help. And
Mhm.
my thing is, I totally agree with you. If you aren't getting it now, get it now. Because
Yeah.
when is now the best time to make the move to do so? And I think
Mm.
what you offer, Tammy, is beautiful, and you have the skill. And we can't do it by ourselves. We can't read enough books because we're trying to learn it from a mind that's still stuck in a past, where you are looking on the outside of the jar saying, I can tell you what the ingredients are.
Yeah. And I want to just congratulate Joan and also Stanley, the results we were able to create with Joan. And I think Joan speaks to a really important piece here, right? It's that you identify the issues, you have the awareness, you have the initial shifts, and it's so important to keep working with someone.
Yes.
Because it's like we naturally have this place of default where humans have how is it humans of habit, I think is what they say, and so it's important to have that like transformation that's ongoing until you build those neural pathways, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and yeah, like I think it's like for myself, even the face analysis and the body analysis and analyzing how someone walks, like all these pieces is great. It's at a level of awareness. And what I'm really passionate about is that, this is why I don't just like, sell this thing that I'm just going to tell you what this means. And people are going to go, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's really accurate. That's really cool. And they walk away. It's at the mind level. What I'm really passionate about is dropping someone from their mind into their heart space, because it's like we transform what we're able to feel, integrate, and let go of, right? It's not understanding it and like, oh, okay, and then we go back to the usual. It really is built this deep place of coming back to self, deepening who we are, and to live a healthy wealthy life. being
Yeah.
exactly who we are, our authentic selves. So that's what I'm really passionate about, right? And so, yeah, I just, I definitely agree, and we resonate in so many levels with this alignment piece, with seeing it at different angles. And we are bringing our gifts. Like I see your episode, your title on imagination, that I can see like how that part of your face is wide and open. And so, it's like it's one of your gifts, and it's just beautiful, like how to really like be able to see ourselves for who we are. I mean, that's what I really enjoy about face reading, is I help people see themselves for who they are, but also change that relationship with themselves. And because we're all going to have our strengths and we're all going to have our challenges, and it's like coming back to knowing who we are and like realizing those are things, just um like things outside of ourselves, that's not the true us. So that's how we actually are able to navigate and flow through life in a way that is, yeah, we're not affected. Like we're not applying, when we feel down and depressed, that I'm a depressed person. We're not taking on identity. We're actually knowing the truth of who we are. And that's my goal, to help people be so solid in that, their authentic being. And so, yeah, I'm really passionate about that space
I
in that area.
yeah, I can see that, and I love that. My question, when you're working with people and you get introduced to them, or you meet them through a discovery call, do you find that many people are afraid to know who they really are?
Yeah, I definitely, you know what? Like if there wasn't a fear, we all be who we are,
Yeah,
right? It's like when we buy into the lies of fear,
yeah,
and we talk about that, but courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyways.
right,
But it's like, we got to be guided to that. And what better way to guide ourselves than our own body?
right.
No other coach will know you as well as you and your body and what it's trying to say to us. So yeah, so it is true. Like there is, and we experience it as blocks in life, fear to making that next step into whatever that new venture is, stepping into that another level of charging our worth or whatever. Um, yeah, and it's like that fear shows up outside of us, but we don't realize it started from in here.
Yeah,
We may not realize that the energy we're in is creating every single experience that's happening outside of us. And yeah, I mean, I could go on forever, but it's like essentially like just knowing, like for example, I had like a physical symptom on my ankle, which I was like getting twitches of pain here and there. And when I really looked into it and connected with myself, it was like I wasn't really supporting myself. It's like the ankles are younger years in life, where it was developed when how nurtured we felt, how supported we felt at that time in our life. And it's like it just brought me back to a time in my life where I didn't get a lot of that support, and I realized I was recreating in that in my life and in that week. That's why it was bothering me. And when I realized and I shift, I go, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm making a conscious choice that I'm just gonna like block this off. I'm gonna cancel some appointments and I'm gonna give myself what I need. And the pain went away.
right.
So yeah, so it's like whatever angle we look at this, it really depends on where someone is in the journey and what their heart is calling for
Right.
within themselves.
Right.
And so, yeah, and I think any angle we go about it is going to make a difference. And I just feel so passionate about looking deeper because our body's a representation of everything, all the emotions that are pent up and suppressed.
Right.
Yeah, so it's just a vast possibility when we see ourselves in this way, and the freedom within ourselves to really take our life on, to really step into self-love and to really show up for our gifts that we're meant to share, and I'm so grateful to that, Stanley, that you are stepping into that and doing this for people, right?
Yes.
Stepping out of your fear.
Yeah. Everybody knows that Stan is not the social technology type person, but I've come out of my comfort zone in that. And, I help people do that in their bodies physically. And I do coaching as well. But today our focus is on alignment. And when our body's in alignment, when our physical body is in alignment, our abundance is expanded beyond our imagination. And it's not going to be, and I tell people this, it's not going to be found in a pill, because the pill is just suppressing what your body's telling you, whether it's depression or whether it is a pain. Okay. What is out of alignment? What is going on? Why am I in this position? And how can I be conscious of it? And that's another conversation, our consciousness and subconsciousness. But these things, they matter and they manifest, and we only see the outside. And we look in the mirror and we see the outside, but I think the mirror sees what's going on the inside. But very few people really look themselves in the eye.
Mhm.
They look at their appearance, they look at what they're wearing. They never, when I have people send me pictures, they are shocked that their body looks the way that it does, because
Yeah.
it's twisted, it's turned, it's hunched, it's rounded, and so it's a process, and it's not a one and done. And I don't think there's anything that's a one and done. I mean, you eat on Monday, do you eat on Tuesday? Okay, so it's not a one and done. It is a continual process to have an abundant life. So, Tammy, if
Mhm.
there was anything that you would want to, your takeaway, that you'd want people to take away, because I know that we could talk for another hour. I'm absolutely
Yes, yes.
positive.
Yeah, we gotta draw it, the ending somewhere. And like honestly, I just really want to reinforce is that to really start looking at yourself as more than one aspect of self. And one exercise I want to leave with people is literally just take a piece of paper or in your journal somewhere and split it into four. And one aspect is your mind, your intellectual self. One is your emotional self, how you feel. The third is like, how's my body feeling? Is there pain? Is there symptoms? And then the last one is like, what is my like soul intuition is telling me? And I want you to start looking at these pieces together and like start developing these awarenesses. And so yeah, and this is wholeness. And so I invite everyone to do that exercise. And if there's like some body symptom that's coming up for you, right, that is reoccurring, you could reach out to Stanley, you could reach out to me, and yeah, let me know what it is, and I could tell you what the psychosomatic meaning behind it is, just to start you on your journey. And so, yeah, I welcome that. Feel free to direct message me, and you could also reach me at Tammy at Path to the Heart. So TAMMY at the bottom of the screen at pathtotheheart.com is my email that you could just reach out, email, direct message. Um, and Stanley, would I be okay to just share something?
100%.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
please.
I just want to put out there just because we're talking about the body and things like that, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, so interesting. What's happening in my face? What does it mean?" And I just have this free masterclass I would like to gift the audience. Discover what your face shape says about you. It walks you through all the different face shapes and the possibilities and shifts that could happen in your face by transforming yourself. And so, yeah, that you can receive that at pathtotheheart.com /links. And I could always post it under, yeah, wherever this video is happening. So, yeah.
Okay, so let me reiterate that. Tammy at pathtotheheart.com /links,
Um, backslash, I think when it
back,
goes like this, and then
back,
links. And I'll
backslash.
put it in the comments just to be clear, because I'm pretty sure it's called backslash.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So, mind, emotion, body, and soul. And
Yeah.
as you separate those and you begin to label it in those boxes, it gives you a tool that your awareness is awakened. And now you can start to demystify that you're not broken, you're not defective, you just have something that's not in alignment.
Mhm. Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's a great starting point for everyone. And of course, it begins with slowing down and willing to be there and sit there and to connect to these pieces of us and just be gentle with yourself, right? You might not be able to connect with what your soul says. Maybe you realize that, there's some challenges with connecting with your you feel. It's all information, right? It's awareness. It starts there. Take the first step.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody wants to get in touch with me, and I recommend, set up a discovery call. You can go to 360lifewithoutlimits.com. Click on the virtual coffee. It's a 30-minute complimentary call, and just demystify. Just take this idea out of your mind that you are destined to suffer, because you're not. You are destined to have an abundant, full life. And, our health is really our wealth. And if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter how much money you don't have anything. And if you're constantly suppressing what the body is saying, there's an emotion in the heart, the mind, the emotion, the soul in the body. There's something going on, and you don't know how to discern it. That is what Tammy is offering, and that's what I'm offering as well. You can get the results that you want, and it does take someone else often, because the same thinking that got you into the trouble is not going to get you out of the trouble, because our mind it's a monkey mind. It constantly plays games. So thank you so much, Tammy. This has been a pleasure, and I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the work you're doing and the offer that you made to the listeners. So with that is I'm just blown away by this conversation. I'll be going back and watching this again.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for inviting me. See you all. I look forward to connecting with you.
Yes, look forward to it. Have a great day.